Governor Abba Kabir Yusuf has presented the letter confirming his reinstatement as Muhammadu Sanusi II. Now, Yusuf also promised to report Justice Mohammed Liman of the Federal High Court for refusing to implement the new emirate law under which Lamido Sanusi has been reinstated. On Thursday, Governor Yusuf reinstated Sanusi 4 years after he was deposed after signing the bill repealing the State Emirate Council Law 2019 that gave the state 5 emirate councils. Sanusi was installed as the Emir of Kano in 2014 by then Governor Rabiu Kwankwaso, who is now the leader of Governor Yusuf's New Nigeria People's Party, NNPP. However, Sanusi was removed in 2020 for alleged insubordination to the government of then Governor Abdullahi Ganduje, and Sanusi's predecessor, Aminu Ado Bayero, was installed as the 15th Emir of Kano. Now, 4 new emirates were then carved out of the sole emirate of the state. But now, a new emirate law passed on May the 23rd, 2024 by the State House of Assembly and assented to immediately by Governor Abba Yusuf has dissolved the 4 emirates and removed the emirs. So, as we speak at this moment, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi is back as the Emir of Kano. Joining me from Kano now to discuss this further is a political affairs analyst and editor-in-chief of Solace-based online newspaper, and that newspaper, by the way, is based in Kano, Abdul-Lateef Abubakar Jos. Thank you very much, Abdul-Lateef, for joining us on the program, and thanks for making time available for us. First off, tell us what exactly is going on in Kano. What is the mood there? What has been the reaction of the people on the ground to what the drama that we have seen in that state and the return of Sanusi Lamido Sanusi as Emir?
Thank you very much for inviting me. But you see, it's not something that is so spectacular, in the sense that the issue that has come up in the last 3 days is not new to anybody that is conversant with Kano politics, because in 2020, when Muhammad Sanusi II was dethroned by Governor Abdullahi Umar Ganduje. Ganduje did it as a result, as of that period, Ganduje did it as a result of personal feud between him and Sanusi. And that was why he went as far as balkanizing the emirates and now created 5 emirates out of Kano. So, going with that, Ganduje then looked at it that the best thing to do for him at that period was to get back at Sanusi fully by removing him from office. And that was why the dethronement came in, and he installed Aminu Ado Bayero as the 15th Emir of Kano. Subsequently, as part of the campaign promises that the present administration in the state, that is the NNPP, made at that period was, whenever they are able to win the governorship race, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi will be returned back as the Emir of Kano. So it was part of their campaign promises. So when they came in now, in the next 1 week now, it's not even up to 1 week. In the next couple of days, we'll be talking about 1 year in office of Governor Abba Kabir Yusuf. So he has just been able to fill that by ensuring that they repeal the law, the emirate law that was created by Governor Abdullahi Umar Ganduje at that period, repeal the law, dissolve all the other emirates, and now make it one single Kano emirate. So by that one single Kano emirate, he gave the opportunity to the kingmakers also again, because, which is the tradition, the kingmakers now reappointed Sanusi to him, and he assented. So that was why Lamido Sanusi was announced. So that was just the situation. And with the letter of appointment now, Muhammad Sanusi II is now the 16th Emir of Kano.
So the question is, what about that court order that actually stopped the reinstatement? Because obviously the governor has not complied with that court order, and he said he's going to report the judge to the NJC.
Yes, the court order that came in, just like according to what the governor said, that the judge, Justice A.M. Liman, Abdullahi Mohammed Liman, is not in the country, according to even what the governor said, that it was is a well-known issue that the judge is in the United States of America as we speak right now. So it was from the US that he gave the order that he granted yesterday. That the order he granted yesterday was granted late in the night yesterday, and it was in the United States of America when he granted the order. So that was why the governor said he was going to report him to the Governors Forum and to the NJC for abuse of office.
At the end of the day, you look at all of this. Don't you think this is just all about politics? And unfortunately, the traditional institution of that state, I mean, the rich traditional institution of that state is now being brought in. I mean, it's immersed in politics.
TG, it's so unfortunate and pathetic, the situation in which we find ourselves in Nigeria. Ask me why. In 2020, during the period that the then governor, Abdullahi Umar Ganduje, created the 4 new emirates then that made it 5 emirates in Kano, there was a court injunction, there was a court order that stopped him from doing so. Abdullahi Ganduje, as of that time as the governor, did not obey the court order. He went ahead and did whatever he wanted to do at that period, and that was what he did. So even when this issue came up with the Governor Abba Kabiru Yusuf, you see, what were thought, even as in law, when we were in school, even as a journalist, going through the aspect of law in our training, no matter how bad a court order is, it must be obeyed first. No matter how bad a court order is. So you see, by the time what we are seeing now playing out is the fact that the governors don't, even the federal government don't mostly respect court orders. So, and in the situation whereby we don't respect court orders, we're heading towards anarchy. Because Ganduje did it and get away with this scot-free, and that is why this one did it at the same time. So they're looking at it that, look, we don't need to obey the court order. Even if the order is bad, the court order ought to have been respected.
Now, some people have said, look, you look at all of this thing. Some people have said, look, Emir Sanusi actually brought all of this thing on himself. That, you know, when he was, that as Emir, he found it very difficult back then, and the hope is that lessons would have been learned now, that he found it difficult to differentiate or separate, you know, politics from, you know, the traditional institution, and that, look, as a traditional ruler, you have to be mindful of what you say, especially when it has to do with politics, and that he dabbled into politics a lot and all of that, and talked too much and what have you. I mean, we know he's quite eloquent, and that, you know, he's someone who is, he speaks his mind and all of that. But that, look, as a traditional ruler, you just have to choose your words very carefully, especially when it concerns politics. And the question now is, are we likely to see a different Emir Sanusi this time? That, you know, because he himself said lessons have been learned, and the issue is, I mean, I want to believe he too would have learned some lessons. Do you think we'd see a different Emir Sanusi this time?
DG, it still goes to the issue of the situation whereby our traditional rulers have to be, traditional institution has to be insulated from the politicians. What do I mean by this? You can imagine the case in Bauchi State, whereby the governor removed some traditional rulers because he felt that they were not in support of him during his gubernatorial race. The same thing in Kogi State, whereby the then governor, Yaya Bello, removed some traditional rulers from the throne close to the end of his tenure because he believed that Usman Ododo did not win. I mean, it's a well-known fact that Usman Ododo did not win as the governorship candidate of APC at that period in their area. And that was the reason about 3 traditional rulers were removed. So you see, it would be very much better if we can have a constitutional review whereby it will be traditional institution will be insulated and will be protected from the whims and caprices of the governors. It's not new. We have been having this thing happening. It's not new in Kano. Kano is not an isolation. It has been happening elsewhere at the same time because in this situation now, you can imagine, people will tell you now that Governor Abdullahi Umar Ganduje brought in Aminu Ado Bayero at that period as the emir. Governor Abba Kabir Yusuf removed him and put Muhammad Sanusi Lamido Sanusi. So what next? Does it now mean that if by providence or by accident, another political party comes in 2000 and in 2027, does that mean that they're going to remove Muhammad Sanusi II? I mean, that is just what it means. Because it has now become a situation whereby the politician will just decide to toy with the traditional institution. You see, we need to understand that the traditional institution, the traditional leader, they are the closest to the people.
Going forward, I mean, how do you see things playing out? In terms of how Emir Sanusi now operates, because do you think now he has to be very careful and that he'll be watching over his back and then watch what he says as well? Because obviously he would not want to offend the powers that be in that state. I'm talking about the governor now, so he has to be very careful too, especially in dealing with politicians, considering that, I mean, knowing that they have the powers to deal with him.
You see, DG, if you look at the Sultan of Sokoto, Alhaji Saad Mohammed Abubakar III, he does comment on political issues in instances whereby the people are not comfortable with probably the economic situation or the political situation or the security challenges or what have you, but he wouldn't go into mainstream politicking.
That's true.
He will express views of the people and say, look, these are what the people these are what my people want. These are what my people are talking about. But in the case of Muhammad Sanusi II now, I think he ought to have learned his lesson at the same time. Because part of what people that are very close to Ganduje administration said at that period was the fact that there was a clear support from Muhammad Sanusi Lamido at that period to the then administration, to the then Abba Kabir Yusuf political party that lost in 2019. If you can remember vividly, it was after the election that the fight really came into open. I mean, between Abdullahi Ganduje as the governor and Sanusi Lamido Sanusi as the emir of Kano at that period. It is high time for Muhammad Sanusi himself to retrace back his step and be in line with the tradition, because traditional leaders, we looked at them as our fathers. We look at them as the last hope of the common man, so to say, not even the judiciary this time around, because if there is any issue or what have you, they are easy to go to for complaints and what have you than going to the political leaders.
And finally, he has to walk a tightrope here, because irrespective of the fact that he's been brought back now by the Abba Yusuf government now, he's still the traditional ruler, traditional leader now of everyone in Kano, irrespective of the political party they belong to, and that he has to see his position as such and not be seen to be aligning with one political party over the other. So he has to be very careful here.
You see, Deji, with the experience of Muhammad Sanusi II, which is wide knowledge, is Islamically sound, is in Western education is very sound. When you look at his world of experience also in administration, I believe that right now he should put all those into bear, whereby he should unite. He needs to try as much as possible to unite every Kano resident. Not even talking about Kano people, every Kano resident. And for us to see him as our father, because it is ordained. Islamically, we believe that, and just like what he said this afternoon himself, we believe that it is ordained that he will be reinstated as the 16th emir of Kano, and that was why Abba Kabir Yusuf just implemented that. And it was ordained at that period also that Abdullah Umar Ganduje would dethrone him in 2020. So they believe Islamically that, look, it is only God that gives power. I think it is high time for the present Emir of Kano, Muhammad Sanusi II, to look at how he can unite the people and bring confidence back into the traditional institution.
There's no question at all that everyone will be watching him very, very closely and watching his every move, especially at this time. Well, Abdul Latif Jos, who is a political affairs analyst and editor-in-chief of Solace Bay's online newspaper in Kano, I want to thank you very much for your time and thanks for coming on the program. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much for having me on.
Well, that's how much we can take on the program this week. Well, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.
It's a pleasure to have you join News Now on TV360 Nigeria. I am Joy Uchejim. President Bola Tinubu will soon present to the 2024 supplementary budget to the National Assembly. The president himself disclosed this when he addressed a joint sitting of the National Assembly on Wednesday. In his response, Senate President Godswill Akpabio expressed his expectation to receive the supplementary appropriation bill of 2024 as soon as possible. 1 year into the administration of President Bola Tinubu, Nigerians say his promise of renewed hope remains largely unfulfilled, while the government insists that everything is on course and that it is delivering on its promises. A significant number of citizens have expressed their disagreement. In this report, TV360's Tamilore Akinkolie conducts an assessment of President Tinubu's administration in the last 1 year.
At his inauguration ceremony on May 29, 2023, President Bola Tinubu presented an 8-point agenda and announced the removal of fuel subsidy, marking his first major decision as the president of Nigeria. The decision has had far-reaching consequences, leading to a spike in inflation, high cost of living, among other issues. A year later, public opinion on President Tinubu's administration remains deeply divided. While some Nigerians have expressed support for his leadership, others remain critical of his approach and the pace at which he has implemented his policies.
People are not everybody either. I think people might use about because now considering to be affected.
The more think of it, I just how to be next. I really frank.
So one real case out within the more that enough child from the
With the president, the from such as opening ways and so.
Government price goes. Yes, we to know that they do it to still going ahead. So if you could construct
President is that the government was those
and the return issues moved secure avoid teams and one security control remain.
That this point is even that I just leave it I don't know. I would found with that one okay because but move with three community
and of signatures to Lalian most today is a trend so make it right on a data on the win okay not
me truth a way to find out. I mean already go to say a lot of seafood in for them it's in the mission is 50 about 20% of his one food nation
his room and 3 of ton is the name school